Now, former Ireland international and new CEO of Treaty United, Ciara McCormack, joins us. Ciara, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. So, walk us back a little bit. I read today that your original plan was to try and set up a team in West Cork. And, you know, West Cork, Limerick, not exactly the same thing. But lo and behold, here you are in charge of Treaty United.
Yeah, basically, I guess my mom's from West Cork, and I have a load of cousins that are still live down there and involved in soccer. And so, yeah, my initial idea was to have a women's team in West Cork, and it is quite funny how that's progressed. But basically, I reached out to the League of Ireland. They sort of mentioned to me they were moving towards professionalizing just the whole setups with clubs in Ireland and having kind of a full suite of, men's, women's, youth academies. So it wasn't sort of as simple as just parachuting in and doing a women's team. And then they mentioned, they said, well, there is a club in Munster that could use help on the women's side, Treaty United. And it just happened that Mary Curtin was one of my best friends playing for Ireland, and she was a player and a coach at Treaty. So that was sort of the segue into Treaty. And then last year, I approached the board about bringing over some, just subsidizing some Canadian girls to come over, just because I kind of have a bleeding heart towards Canadian women's soccer and just the lack of opportunities there. And so they were very skeptical, I think, of just sort of, they couldn't really wrap their heads around, that there was no league or no pathway in Canada because we had just won the gold medal. And just, I think the whole kind of idea, just to kind of almost silver platter them, a bunch of good players on the girls' side. But anyways, they didn't have a great season last year, reached out at the end of the year. And then that was kind of how then I brought over the girls, kind of delivered on everything I said I was going to do. And then approached them when and then I was obviously, I played myself. So I was kind of right in the mix of everything. And then, in March, April, I was again, kind of talking to the board and just said, would you guys be open if I found investment? And they were. And then that kind of just led on the whole journey that culminated with the announcement last week.
Well, that's a potted history in 2 minutes with loads of little bits. And obviously I was dropped in the middle of it. So are you just addicted to football? Is that what this is?
Yeah, I think I was actually joking. My friends in college used to joke that I'd be 40 years old and still playing soccer. And now I'm the joke's on them because I'm going to try and be 50 years old still playing soccer. No, I mean, I love it. Obviously, my journey through it's been quite well documented, the good parts and the bad parts, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I love this sport. I love the good side of it. I love all the positive stuff that it can bring and how it can change people's lives for the better and all that. And obviously, just like addicted to playing myself. So yeah. I definitely love soccer, and this is a dream scenario for me, to be honest.
Before we get into the serious part of how you managed to attract investment, it's going to be very difficult for the manager next season to drop the owner/CEO from the team here, Ciara.
Well, it's not confirmed yet that I'll be playing,
okay.
But no,
but if you are, it's oh, where do you want to play this week, boss?
No, I'm a pretty straight up person, and I'm the last person that would want to be on a field because of anybody, no, it's not my style. And if I did continue, that'd be extremely clear. So yeah.
Okay. You're totally droppable is what I'm hearing.
I'm very droppable with a good attitude. In fact, I have 20 years of a history to back me up on that.
So how did you convince a Canadian business to invest in soccer in Limerick? As far as I know, this is their first investment outside of Canada. Is that correct?
No, they're quite heavy in the food market and real estate, I think, as well in the U.S. North America. That's where they do their investment. They 100% were not on the hunt for an Irish soccer club to invest in. It was basically the founder of Tricor's son is a good friend of mine. We grew up actually in the same town, but he went to the private school, I went to the public school, and then we actually met at Yale. We both went to school there. So anyways, we've stayed good friends since university. He ended up going to UCC to med school and met his wife, who's from Cork. He actually randomly spent some time in Limerick for 3 months doing his residency, which I actually just found out through this whole process. But yeah, no, I basically, I had approached him back in the like West Cork idea days. And, anyways, we basically approached his dad. Ted Lasso came along as well in the meantime. And we cracked jokes about how this is our little Ted Lasso project. We went to his dad, and I think initially his dad kind of humored us with the meeting, where we were popping off about this opportunity in Ireland. And then, I think the more that they kind of like looked into it, and even to be honest, like I had no idea that they have, their family portfolio it's massive. They're one of the biggest probably in Canada for like a family office. They're very humble people. Like I said, I had no idea the kind of the depth and breadth of what Tricor Pacific is. But the more I learned even about them and how they run their business, and they're all about long-term vision and sustainability and people and treating people properly, and just tons of values that like line up with me. And honest to God, they couldn't be a more perfect investor in the sense that they're not popping into, the goal is not to, make tons of money or whatever, like it's more to build something, again, financially viable and sustainable, and that benefits the community in the long term. So they basically then came back later in it, like towards I guess the late spring. And then it's just been a matter of working it out with Treaty, just the due diligence process and all that stuff through the last few months to finally get the thing done.
What was the thing about Treaty that sold it to them, to the investors?
I think it's kind of my enthusiasm around Treaty and like what I see as the potential around it. I guess I could be convincing if I'm really, believe in something. But honestly, like I look at Limerick, and I look even at the Irish League with kind of the lens of sort of watching North America, and just use Vancouver as an example. Greg Kerfoot, the owner, bought the Whitecaps for $100,000 of debt in 2002. And now the Whitecaps is worth $500 million and is a, corporate machine, fully professional. So, just in my own city, witnessing kind of the evolution from volunteer run up to, like very sustainable business. I see a lot of the same sort of, I see Ireland being in a similar transition phase where there's a lot of potential. There's tons. The Midwest of Ireland has 500,000 people. There's incredible coaches. Like that's the thing I have to say. I've been so impressed as a player within Treaty, and just seeing like the volunteers are first class, the coaches are first class. Like there's so many unbelievable people around the club. And I just think, again, it just needs some structure. And with that sort of professionalization, I see huge potential. And, again, even from a playing perspective as well, like all the teams are training twice a week. And like we have youth internationals in our club, playing, internationally, and they're training twice a week. So I look at that from a playing perspective as well, and think like, if we train more, if we throw in proper resources, even just on that level, how much better could we make the players within the club? And anyways, with that same enthusiasm, I basically went to Tricor, and I don't know. Yeah, they ended up sort of jumping on board. And like I said, they were very skeptical kind of in the beginning, but now like super, super excited, and they're going to come over next year probably. And everyone's really excited about it.
It is a city that has had a pretty recent record of showing the evidence of, build it and they will come. Obviously there's been people who've been, Munster rugby fans and Limerick hurling fans their whole life, but when Munster rugby started to get their house in order, particularly with the turn of professionalism in rugby, and same with Limerick hurling over the last half a decade or more, they've definitely garnered a stronger support, a more fervent support. And it just kind of shows that even with not a small base, because they've always had big bases, but they can certainly grow from there and make something that feels like it's already at capacity into something much bigger. So then when you take it to football, and you certainly look at maybe the women's side of the game in Limerick, the exponential growth that is a possibility for Treaty must be something that really wowed the investors and really persuaded them to get in behind this.
Yeah, well, it was funny because one of the, like Rod, who's the founder of Tricor, he tells a really funny story about how he was visiting Riley at UCC, and they were walking down the street, and all of a sudden there was a sea of red, and they were kind of trying to, see what was going on, and then ended up finding out that it was, I think, a hurling match between Limerick and Cork, and ended up in the stands. And he said he bought, I think, a green hat just because it was a sunny day, but didn't realize the significance, and found himself stuck like smack in the middle of the Cork section with a Limerick, like a green hat. Anyways, and so then, obviously they were just the dumb Canadians in the midst of this crowd. So they have seen it firsthand in terms of they have seen the huge crowds at, an Irish hurling match. And, so again, yeah, absolutely. That potential is there. And like you said, I think, it's just like with anything, it's branding is everything, how things are portrayed. And I think, again, what Treaty, the board and the volunteers of Treaty have built is absolutely honest to God, unbelievable, so commendable. And the foundation's been laid there. But yeah, I think for sure, once you start to layer that on with, myself and Mary Curtin are going to be full-time, and, being able to sort of build those relationships corporately and branding and all those sort of things to sort of, give it probably a bit of a different feel for next season. I think for sure that building that type of following is possible.
Have you started to think about your importance as being, I guess, one of the female CEOs in a big Irish sports organisation, or something that will become hopefully a bigger Irish sports organisation over the next little while? Because it's timely looking at some of the issues that the FAI are currently trying to deal with gender balance on their board, and they've essentially had to postpone big meetings in the last couple of weeks in order to get that gender quota. This has been a big topic of conversation in Ireland over the last couple of years, obviously, since the FAI crisis has been blown wide open, and it will continue to be so. Is that part of the conversations you're happening in terms of specifically the role of women in the boardroom in Irish football?
I think I understand in terms of how unique it is and the responsibility that comes with that, for sure. I think as players, again, Mary and I played many times at Tallaght Stadium in front of, friends and family that maybe moved into 300-400 people back in, the 2010s. And, just to even see, that 37,000 people were at the Aviva. I was at the game in Australia with Ireland and Australia with 75,000 people. So, I definitely think on a corporate level, for sure, there's so much potential there on the women's side that is untapped. And part of it is branding. And, women's sports have always been sort of the just thrown off to the side, secondhand citizen, So, I think also, and again, witnessing what happened at the World Cup final with the whole situation with Spain and Jenny Hermoso. And, that's a reality, unfortunately, for, most women would see what happened with the whole thing at the World Cup and in the final, and just kind of, just another situation. And that's not, specific just to soccer. And I do think you need to have diversity now in leadership, and you need a different perspective that makes the whole sport better. It gives, anything with more than one perspective is going to be something that's more significant. And so I think for me, for sure, I look forward to kind of, obviously everybody has a different leading style, and my experiences as a woman and a woman in soccer will for sure play into how I lead Treaty. Not because I'm trying, but that's just, I'm a genuine person. And of course you're going to bring your own authentic situation to whatever you do. So yeah, so that piece of it, for sure, I think it's important, and it's an honor and a responsibility, and it's something I'm really looking forward to.
We wish you the very best of luck with it, Ciara. It's a remarkable story of, I don't know, just seeing something and going for it. Has the ownership structure been made public? Are you part owner?
I am.
Is there a percentage that's public, or does that?
No. We're keeping all of the financials and all the
Fair enough.
That piece of it under wraps.
And tell me, is there a name change potentially on the agenda?
Yeah, I think there's quite a loud cry of people that want to have Limerick back in the name. So this season, it's just just sort of practically with ordering kit and all that sort of stuff. And to be honest, I think it's kind of a fun endeavor to kind of have the community involved in, rebranding, changing the name and that kind of thing. So I think we're basically getting our feet underneath us. We have a very quick turnaround into next season. And I think for sure, I would say moving into 2025 season, there'd be a possibility of a rebrand.
Well, best of luck with everything, Ciara. sincerely, it would be amazing for the football team in Limerick to be back to where it could really be. So we wish you the very best of luck. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks for having me.